back around 2014, I kind of came to a bit of a standstill in my music. I guess you could call it writer's block, but I'd come off of a series of records that were, about life or love or really just an attempt to write commercially viable songs, pop songs, love songs, create something catchy. I was even a part of a management company called Chart Vision, so there was this emphasis on getting to the charts and writing hits, and I just found myself at a place where I was looking for a way to say more. There were deeper parts of me and the way that I see the world that I was looking for a new way to express, and I didn't really feel like I had the language or the output to be able to say these things in a way that wasn't cheesy or cliche or, in some, examination of the outside world that didn't just seem like contrived, I guess. And so I came across an album that Sting did. I think it's called The Last Ship, and it's a concept album. And he told the story about a time where he found himself in having writer's block, and I think he went back home to where he's from, in this area where they build these ships at the end of the yard, and there was these stories from his childhood that he began to tell, and it morphed into this really beautiful album that's sonically cohesive and tells this beautiful story. But there was something sonically about it that I really resonated with, which is the sound of the sea. And at the time, I lived in Venice Beach, was right off the water. I spent my days surfing. I had a bike with the surf rack, and I would just put my surfboard in the rack. I'd go down and surf off of this little jetty, most of the time by myself, as much as I could achieve that. And I just began to dream, and I really became obsessed with this idea of a sailor alone at sea. I grew up sailing with my best friend in high school. My grandfather, they called him the skipper. He had a sailboat, so sailing and the hull of a ship, the vibe of the ship, the wood, the teak wood, these sorts of things were kind of really deep into my psyche as really nostalgic things that represented really deep parts of me. The ocean, the water. And so I just began to dive in to this idea. It really began to bring things to life within me. And I just became obsessed. I started to watch any film I could watch that had to do with sailors or sailing or the ocean. Or I read 2 books, A World of My Own by Robert Knox Johnston, and another guy, I can't remember, a French guy, but these were some of the guys that had done the first solo manned circumnavigation of the globe. So they were by themselves in a boat, basically man versus nature, man versus himself, in a small vessel, beasting this ocean and dealing with the inner turmoil of the mind and isolation, and really just kind of immersed myself in this. I watched another film about a guy, Donald Crowhurst, who was kind of a bit of a poser, who didn't really know how to sail, and his story and how he faked his way in that same contest and misrepresented his position. And so I just really dove into this space, and then I just these concepts and these titles started to come. So the first thing that came was a song called Mermaiden, and this was really the centerpiece. of the album, and it set the tone and set the sound that really gave wings to the rest of it. Then there was titles like Red Skies at Night and Red Skies at Morning. And sailor vernacular, if they say if there's red skies at night, sailors delight, red skies at morning, sailors take warning. In other words, these are metaphors for what the weather's going to be like. So these became metaphors that I could use to explore inner parts of me, the highs and the lows, my relationship with my wife and former relationships, my struggles with depression, my highs and absolute creative manic rushes of just like OCD and just laser focused, unstoppable nature. There's a song called "No One Owns the Sea," which is an ode to freedom and personal freedom, and like "Wind in My Sails" is the opening title. So I just these titles began to come, and these songs they pretty much wrote themselves. They just came to me so easily, and melodies and chord progressions and things just came to me, things that I'd never played before in my life, but just came so easily and were so interesting to me. I wrote half of the album before Christmas. I took a break. I went home for Christmas, came back. I wrote the rest, the other 6 songs. And there's only one song that I've recently written over the last year that ended up replacing another one that I had originally intended. So I put these songs down. I every day I'd play through them. I had my written lyrics. Every day I would play through them and just feel them out in a story form. This arc of this guy who is going out to sea to find himself or find God or find truth, or it's the hero's journey or the dark night of the soul. A well-worn tale, but it became this vehicle that I could express some deeper things that I wanted to say about the world or myself. So I put these down in acoustic form. So once I had them to a certain point, I recorded demos of them in acoustic form. I had them, and that was that. And I knew that I had something that was very special to me, very interesting to me, and I knew, as far as I was concerned, it was the best thing I'd ever done, the most meaningful thing I'd ever done, and so I wasn't in a big hurry to make it until its appropriate time. So fast forward to 2017. I had a really harrowing time in my life. I had a manic episode, kind of a mental breakdown, psychotic episode. Not quite sure exactly what happened, but I found myself in my own personal, what started off at the top of the mountain to then my own real personal hell in a psychiatric ward, and just really had everything I thought I knew about myself and my purpose ripped out of my cold, dead hands practically. And, it's just kind of a long story that, is being written into a book. But I came out of there a different person. I came out of there broken and naked, if you will. And I had a different song to sing. I had a different voice. You can listen to my albums before that experience and after. And what happened was, when I came out, these songs became like a life raft for me. And when I sang them in light of this new traumatic, really deeply traumatic and painful experience, I was able to bring a new voice to them, a new understanding of them. And it's like almost as if I had prophetically written this album for future me on the backside of something that I didn't know that I was going to go through. and they were the narrative, the story of my journey. And so, fast forward a little further, I bounced back miraculously, had this miraculous, healing and really restoration that I'm grateful to God for. And then I gave these songs another try in a format in which I had a tape machine that I bought, and I put them down on this tape machine. And so that was a different, a different set of attempts at putting these songs down and interpreting them. And so I think one Christmas there, I brought some of those songs to my brother's studio, which a lot of this gear here was in a studio that was my brother's down in Palos Verdes, California. And over Christmas break, we kind of dug into the songs, looked at putting down arrangements to them, and he kind of pushed me into a space with some of them to sing them differently than I had, or approach them differently. A song called Red Skies at Night, which something that I started off singing really high, got dropped down and brought me into a much different vocal range, more gritty and low and soulful, and ended up being a very different interpretation than I would have done. And I put down, about half the record in different ways, and lived with it for a little bit, but it still wasn't what I don't know, it didn't meet my standard of what I felt like this record deserved. And so, fast forward to, I think there was another attempt at recording some stuff or putting some stuff down there, but fast forward to, I think about a year ago, I'm back in Nashville. We've found this property. We've kind of got settled in. I found myself with a burst of energy and a wind and some time, and I just I just unleashed creativity on this album and just went to work in this space. And I think 4 or 5 songs in a week and a half were recorded and put down in a fashion that I was really happy with. And then fast forward another period of time, maybe another 6 months or so, I found another wind to, record the other songs and get them to a place that I was excited about, a cohesive sonic picture, and just really feeling like, okay, this is worthy of its weight. Like, this serves it to a place that I'm happy with. Which brings me to where I am now. I have an album that I have waited 10 years to share with the world, because it's I don't know where it came from. I don't know what it is. I don't know why it is. All I know is that it is. And in times of despair and darkness in my life, I've been able to come back to this album as a listener and a participant, and it brings me joy, and it excites me, and it's like I get to be a fan of something that is mine, but also is not mine. And I don't know what that's going to look like when other people listen to it, but I just know that I can't control that, but I do know that until the day I die, this will be something that I will enjoy listening to and having as a gift. It feels like a gift to me. And so you can see behind me, back during that time, I put together this sketch. That's the album artwork, and it contains a lot of imagery from the songs and the stories. And back then I was going by Jeff with one F. It's since been changed on the current artwork, but it's something that I've made a lot of music in my life. I've made a lot of albums. I've been blessed to be able to put down music and record music myself, and be creative in a lot of ways. And my path has been one that I would really attribute to God's grace and God's provision. It hasn't been one that's been typical. I've never had a record deal. I've had a couple, management situations that didn't really work out. I don't really do well in situations where I'm told what I can or can't do. So I've always just held everything pretty close to the chest. My creative freedom is really important to me. But because of that, I haven't had a lot of ability to push and market and go putting resources behind what I've done. I've kind of just had to rely on word of mouth and the grace of God to take my songs and do what they're going to do. And situations where I thought albums would do really well, they didn't. In situations where, there were situations where I was pleasantly surprised by songs having a lot of success. So, which brings me to where I am now. I'm not someone who likes to ask for help. I'm a do-it-yourself. I'm a play everything myself kind of guy. That's always been my world. A guy in a room with his musical instruments who can just get lost for days and weeks, and that brings me joy, and time flies. But without support and without people to listen, then I'm just a guy in a room. And so I'm kind of taking a leap of faith here to say, I need your help. This is something that is very special to me, and I'd like to see it go as far as it possibly can. And so I'm coming to you to join with me in that process, to help me see it through, to give and to ride the wave with me, and to see what happens with this. And if nothing else, it'll give people the opportunity to connect with something that's really meaningful for me, and may end up being really meaningful for them as well, in a way that, is connected to mental health and what art can do in the process as a healing agent for people struggling. And I've certainly struggled and still struggle. But this, being able to make music and do what I do, is one thing that has kept me afloat. And so by supporting this, you have the opportunity to help people like me be able to do what they do. Doctors do doctor things. Teachers teach. Mechanics work on cars. People go to school and then they do what they do. Sometimes it's not the case for artists. We, pour our heart and soul into what we do, and oftentimes we have to work tons of other jobs that take all of our time, and find ourselves with just the remaining hours of the week to pour into the things that we love. And sometimes when we have families, we have even less because we can't neglect our families. So this is an opportunity to get behind something that you believe in. If you believe in me, if you believe in what my music has done for you, if you've listened to anything that I've done, and it's a way to support art and a way to support artists. And I think I'm obviously not the first one to do this, but I have ideas to piggyback off of the back of the potential success of this, that I can come alongside other artists and help them do the same thing. When you have a record label, what a record label does is they will pay for you to record. So they give you an advance so you have time and energy to record. They pay for your marketing. They pay for your music video. So it's either you have somebody in a tower, a business-minded person with resources, getting behind what you do, and then you're beholden to them and they own a certain part of it, or you do what I'm doing, which is coming directly to the fan. And I think there's a relationship there between the artist and the fan that can actually create a much different world in which artists say, like, hey, we need help. And if you come alongside of us, we can create a world where there's a much different art being created, because artists don't want to have the pressure to make a commercialized whatever to be successful. Artists just want to pursue the art that's true to them. And by allowing them to do that, you're going to get better art, you're going to get more meaningful art, and it's going to bless your life in a way that's far more meaningful. And the great thing is, somebody like me, it doesn't take much for me to be able to do what I do. It doesn't take millions. It's you're talking tens of thousands. And that is something that can allow somebody like me to feed my family and make art every day. And to have that ability is the only dream I've ever had. It's to wake up every day and be creative and put the stamp that I feel like the Lord has given me on the art that I feel like He's given me, so that when it goes out, it can bless people, help them to heal, and help them to experience His world and our world that we live in the way that I think He wants us to experience it. So I hope you'll join me in this. I'm excited for this journey. There's a breakdown of what you'll get in return by giving certain amounts, and I think it's going to be a exciting thing to watch. Like I said, this has been a long time coming, and I'm really excited to be sitting here talking about this project, and I just pray that it blesses you, and I'm excited to see who else it blesses, because it's already blessed me a ton. So God bless you, and thank you for your support, and let's go.